My hands were shaking so much I could barely hold the canvas. It wasn't the cold, though it was freezing in that alley behind the discount store, but hunger. 3 days without a decent meal will do that. 3 days since my daughter Patricia looked me in the eye and said something I'll never forget. Mom, you're a burden I can't carry anymore. I'm Claire Hutchinson, 56 years old. Until last week, I thought I knew what rock bottom looked like. Before we dive in, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Just drop your city or state in the comments. It helps me feel less alone, and Lord knows I've felt pretty alone lately. Let me take you back to how this all began, because no one wakes up one day planning to sell a priceless painting for $5 just to buy a sandwich. I was living in Patricia's house in Portland, Oregon, not by choice. After my husband Richard died 4 years ago, medical bills wiped us out. The house, the savings, even my mom's jewelry, gone. Patricia offered to take me in, but it felt more like a transaction. She made it clear that I needed to pull my weight, and I did. I cooked every meal, cleaned the four-bedroom house from top to bottom, and took care of her twins while she and her husband Thomas went on weekend trips. I never complained. Not when she criticized my cooking, not when Thomas joked about having a live-in maid, and definitely not when Patricia introduced me to her friends as my mom who's staying with us temporarily, even though we both knew I had nowhere else to go. The painting was the only thing left from my old life. Richard bought it for me at an estate sale in 1998 for $200. We didn't know much about art, but we loved it. It was dark and dramatic, showing a young guy with a basket of fruit. We hung it in our bedroom for 23 years. When I moved into Patricia's house, I brought it with me. It was the only piece of home I had left. I hung it in the guest room I was allowed to occupy. Patricia hated it. She said it was creepy and depressing, that the fruit looked rotten, but it was mine, and she let me keep it until that morning last Tuesday. I came downstairs to find my things in garbage bags by the front door. Patricia stood there with her arms crossed, looking at me like I was something stuck to her shoe. "What's happening?" I asked. "Thomas and I have decided we need our space. You need to leave." "Leave? Where am I supposed to go?" "That's not my problem anymore, Mom. You've been here 3 years. We've done our duty. We have our own lives to live." Her own lives, as if I wasn't living a life, just existing, taking up space. I stood there holding those garbage bags, searching Patricia's face for a hint of the little girl who used to crawl into my lap during thunderstorms. That child was gone. In her place was a cold stranger who couldn't meet my eyes. "Please, just give me a few days to figure something out. I'll call the shelters." "The shelters are a good idea," she cut me off. "Thomas is working from home today and needs quiet. You need to go now." "Can I at least get my painting? It's still upstairs." She sighed like I'd asked her to move a mountain. "Fine, be quick." I dragged those bags upstairs, my heart hammering. In the guest room, I took the painting off the wall. It was heavier than I remembered, the frame solid and ornate. I looked at it one last time in decent light, the boy with his basket, the way the artist captured the light on the fruit, some pieces fresh, others bruised and past their prime, kind of like me, I guess. I wrapped it in an old pillowcase and carried everything downstairs. Thomas was in the kitchen making coffee, the fancy organic kind that I'd been told was off limits for months. He didn't even look up as I passed. Patricia held the door open. "Mom, I hope you understand this isn't personal." "How do you make kicking your mom out personal?" I didn't say anything. I just walked out and she closed the door behind me. I heard the lock click. That sound hurt more than everything else. I stood on the porch of what had been my home for 3 years, holding my garbage bags and my painting, realizing I had exactly $43 in my purse. $43 and nowhere to go. The women's shelter on Morrison Street had a 2-week waiting list. The one on Burnside was full. The third place I called said they had a fire last month and were operating at reduced capacity. "Try back in March," the woman said kindly. It was January. I spent the first night in a 24-hour diner, nursing 1 cup of coffee for 7 hours until the manager said I had to order food or leave. $19 for a sandwich and coffee. I made it last as long as I could. The second night, I found a nook behind a furniture store that blocked some of the wind. I piled my clothes on for warmth and tried to sleep sitting up with my bags clutched to my chest. Every sound made me jump. Every shadow felt like danger. By the third day, the hunger was making my hands shake and my vision blur. I spent another $12 on fast food. That left me with $12 total. I looked at the painting still wrapped in its pillowcase. Richard, forgive me. I started walking until I found a small antique shop on Hawthorne Boulevard. The sign in the window said, "We buy estates." It was time to let go of the last piece of my old life. The shop smelled like old books and furniture polish. A bell chimed when I pushed the door open, and warmth hit my face. I hadn't been truly warm in 3 days. The man behind the counter looked up from his newspaper. He was in his 60s, wearing wire-rimmed glasses and a cardigan that had seen better days. His name tag said Walter. "Help you?" he asked, not unkindly. I unwrapped the painting right there, my cold fingers fumbling with the pillowcase. "I need to sell this. How much can you give me?" He came around the counter, curious. Then he really looked at it. His expression changed, going from polite interest to intense focus. He picked up the frame carefully and carried it to the window where the light was better. I watched him examine every inch of it, his face getting paler by the second. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "where did you get this? My husband bought it at an estate sale years ago. It's been in our bedroom ever since." My voice cracked. "I just need enough for a meal. Please, $5. I'll take $5. Walter set the painting down very carefully on the counter like it might explode. His hands were shaking now, too. "Ma'am, I can't buy this from you." My heart sank. "Please, I'm desperate." $3 then. "No, you don't understand." He looked at me, and there was something like awe in his eyes. "I can't buy this because I can't afford it. Nobody can." "Ma'am, do you know what this is?" I shook my head. "I think, and I could be wrong. I hope to God I'm not wrong, but I think this is an original Caravaggio." The name meant nothing to me. I must have looked blank because he continued speaking faster now. "Michelangelo Merisi da Caravaggio, Italian Baroque master. He died in 1610. Ma'am, if this is real and I've been in this business 40 years, I know what I'm looking at. This painting has been missing for decades, maybe centuries." "That's impossible," I whispered. "We bought it for $200. Sometimes impossible things happen. He was already reaching for his phone. "I need to make some calls." "Several calls. Please sit down. When did you last eat?" I I don't remember." He disappeared into the back room and returned with a sandwich and a bottle of water. "Eat this. Don't move. Don't leave. Promise me you won't leave." I promised, though I wasn't sure why. I was too tired and hungry to argue. While I ate, God, that sandwich was the best thing I'd ever tasted. Walter made phone calls. I heard fragments. "Authentication, art loss register, Baroque specialist. Yes, I'm absolutely serious." "No, I don't think she knows." "Knows what?" I was too exhausted to process any of it. The warmth of the shop, the food in my stomach, the softness of the chair. I started to drift off. My last thought before sleep took me was that at least I'd been warm for a few minutes. At least someone had been kind to me. I woke to voices. Multiple voices. The shop was suddenly crowded with people in suits and badges. FBI, local police, a woman who introduced herself as Dr. Sarah Chen from the Portland Art Museum, and a man with an Italian accent who'd apparently flown in from somewhere. "Mrs. Hutchinson," Dr. Chen knelt beside my chair. "I'm so sorry to wake you, but we need to talk about your painting." My painting was on an easel now under special lights. People were photographing it from every angle. Someone was examining the back of the canvas with what looked like a magnifying device. Am I in trouble? My voice came out small and scared. "No, no, absolutely not," Dr. Chen assured me. "But we need to understand how you came to possess this painting. Everything you can remember." I told them about Richard and the estate sale in 1998, the house on Elm Street in Tacoma, Washington, and the elderly woman who died, whose name was something like Kowalski or Kowalik. Her nephew ran the sale, and everything was priced to move. Richard and I were furnishing our first house and couldn't afford much. An FBI agent was taking notes. "Do you remember anything else about that sale? Any paperwork? Receipt?" "Maybe. That was 27 years ago. We kept receipts in a filing box, but I trailed off. Everything was gone. The house, the box, the receipts. Patricia had thrown out most of Richard's things after I moved in, saying I was living in the past. Mrs. Hutchinson, the Italian man, stepped forward. His accent was thick, but his English was perfect. My name is Lorenzo Marchetti. I work with the Carabinieri Italian Police in their art recovery division. This painting, he gestured reverently at it, was stolen from a private collection in Milan in 1969. It disappeared. We believed it was destroyed or lost forever. 56 years, Dr. Chen added softly. It's been missing for 56 years. The same number as my age. I didn't know if that meant something or nothing. The family who owned it never stopped looking, Lorenzo continued. The original owner died in 1982, but his daughter, now in her 80s, kept the search alive. Every year she contacts us asking if we found her father's Caravaggio. But how did it end up in Washington? At some random estate sale? That's what we need to investigate, the FBI agent said. The woman who owned the house, this Kowal woman, will need to trace her history. How did she acquire it? Was she complicit in the theft, or did she purchase it unknowingly? Probably unknowingly, Dr. Chen said. Most stolen art passes through several innocent hands before being recovered. Each person thinks they're buying a nice old painting, having no idea of its true value or origin. Speaking of value, another man in a suit stepped forward. I hadn't even noticed him. Mrs. Hutchinson, I'm Robert Tavistock, insurance investigator. A painting like this, authenticated, we're looking at somewhere between $45 million and $65 million. The room spun. I gripped the arms of my chair. Was that $45 million? I'd been about to sell it for $5. If you're watching this and haven't subscribed yet, please hit that button now. You need to hear what happened next, and I promise you, this story gets even more unbelievable. They moved the painting to a secure facility at the Portland Art Museum. I went with it, still clutching my garbage bags like a homeless woman, which I suppose I was. Dr. Chen insisted I stay in the museum's guest suite. You're not leaving our site, she said with a kind smile. Not until we sort this out. Over the next 48 hours, I watched experts swarm over my painting. They took tiny samples of paint and analyzed them with machines I couldn't begin to understand. They used ultraviolet light, infrared imaging, X-rays. They examined every brushstroke under microscopes. Dr. Chen explained it all to me. Caravaggio had a very distinctive technique. He worked directly on the canvas without preliminary sketches. He used dramatic lighting, what we call chiaroscuro, and he painted from live models. We're looking for all his hallmarks. And I asked, is it real? Claire, everything points to authentic. The pigments are consistent with early 17th century materials. The canvas is the right type and age. The technique is unmistakably Caravaggio. But more than that, she pulled up an image on her tablet. Look at this. It was a black and white photograph from what looked like an old auction catalog. This photo was taken in 1968, 1 year before the painting was stolen. It was from the original owner's insurance documentation. I looked at the photo, then at my painting under the lights. They were identical. Same basket, same boy, same arrangement of fruit, even the same small tear in the bottom left corner of the canvas that Richard had wanted to fix, but I'd insisted gave it character. It's definitely yours, I whispered. It's definitely authentic, Dr. Chen corrected gently. The question now is what happens next. Lorenzo had been on the phone almost constantly with Italy. The family who owned it wanted it back, of course, but there were laws, complications. I'd owned it in good faith for 27 years. Did I have any claim? Did Richard's estate? What about the woman in Tacoma who'd unknowingly sold stolen property? In cases like this, the insurance investigator explained, there's usually a finder's fee. The rightful owners pay a percentage of the painting's value to recover it, typically 10 to 20%. 10% of $50 million, $5 million. My brain couldn't process it. Just days ago, I'd been prepared to sell it for the price of a coffee. Now they were talking about millions. But he cautioned, nothing is certain yet. There will be legal proceedings. Authentication must be absolute. The Italian government has to verify everything. This could take months. Months of waiting, I said quietly. Months of staying in nice hotels and eating regular meals, Dr. Chen said firmly. On the museum's expense account, you're not going back to those streets, Claire. I won't allow it. I started crying then. Not pretty crying, but ugly shaking sobs that felt like they were ripping out of my chest. Someone brought tissues. Someone else brought tea. These strangers were kinder to me in 2 days than my daughter had been in 3 years. By day 3, the story had leaked to the media. Missing Caravaggio found in Portland blazed across headlines. My face was on the news, a homeless woman who unknowingly owned a masterpiece. It was the kind of human interest story that spreads like wildfire. My phone, the old one Patricia had complained was embarrassing, started ringing. Numbers I didn't recognize, then numbers I did recognize. Patricia called on the 4th day. I stared at her name on the screen for 3 rings before answering. Mother, her voice was tight. I saw the news. Hello, Patricia. That painting, the one from your room, they're saying it's worth millions. Apparently, so. Silence. I could practically hear her calculating. Mother, I think there's been a misunderstanding. When I asked you to leave, I didn't mean permanently. I was just overwhelmed that day. You know how Thomas gets. We'd love for you to come back home. Home? She called it home. Now, Patricia, when you asked me to leave, I slept in an alley. I went 3 days without a proper meal. I was going to sell that painting for $5 just to eat. I'm sure it wasn't that bad. It was exactly that bad. Well, her voice hardened when she realized sympathy wasn't working. Legally, half that painting belonged to Daddy, which means half belongs to his estate, which means half belongs to me as his heir. There it was, the real reason for the call. The painting was a gift to me, I said quietly. Your father bought it from me for our bedroom. There's no estate claim. We'll see what my lawyer says about that. She hung up. I sat there holding the phone, shaking again, but not from cold or hunger this time. Rage. Dr. Chen found me 20 minutes later. Claire, you look pale. What happened? I told her about Patricia's call, about the threat of legal action. Let her try, Dr. Chen said flatly. The painting was in your possession. It was gifted to you. Unless she can prove otherwise, which she can't, she has no claim. But Claire, I need to ask you something. What? When this settles, and it will settle, you will get that finder's fee. What are you going to do? I'd been thinking about that. In the quiet hours in the museum suite, wrapped in a warm robe, eating hot meals, I'd been thinking about a lot of things. I'm going to find a place to live, a small place just for me. And then I paused. And then I'm going to figure out how to help people like me, women my age, who end up with nowhere to go when their families give up on them. Dr. Chen smiled. That's beautiful. It's practical, I corrected. Nobody should have to sleep in an alley at 56 years old. Nobody should have to choose between dignity and shelter. Over the next week, more relatives crawled out of the woodwork. A cousin I hadn't spoken to in 20 years, Richard's brother who'd skipped the funeral. All of them suddenly very interested in my well-being. All of them with lawyers. The museum's legal team handled them all. Vultures, their lead attorney called them. Don't worry, Claire. We're not letting them near you or that painting. 3 weeks after Walter first turned pale in his shop, Lorenzo arranged a video call with the family in Italy. I sat in the museum's conference room, Dr. Chen beside me for moral support. The screen flickered to life, and I found myself looking at an elderly woman in a sunny room somewhere in Milan. Mrs. Hutchinson, she said in accented English, I am Francesca Moretti. That painting belonged to my father. I'm so sorry, I said immediately. I never knew it was stolen. We bought it in good faith. She held up a hand, smiling. Please, no apologies. You are a victim in this, too. No, you love this painting. You kept it safe for 27 years. Without meaning to, you protected my father's treasure. Her kindness made my eyes water. Let me tell you about this painting, Francesca continued. It shows my ancestor, the boy with the fruit basket. His name was Geppo Moretti. He lived in Rome in 1595. He was 15 years old, very poor, and Caravaggio paid him to model. That painting stayed in our family for 400 years. From Geppi to his son, down through the generations to my father who loved it more than anything. How was it stolen, I asked. Her face darkened. 1969. My father was elderly, living alone in the family villa. Men broke in. They knew exactly what they wanted. They took the painting and disappeared. The police investigated, but found nothing. It broke my father's heart. He died believing he'd failed our ancestors by losing it. I'm so sorry. But now, her face brightened. Now it comes home because of you. because your husband saw beauty and bought it, because you kept it even when you had nothing else. Claire, may I call you Claire? You have given my family a miracle. We talked for over an hour. She told me about Jeppa, about the family history, about her father's obsession with recovering the painting. I told her about Richard, about how we'd loved it without knowing what it was, about hanging it in our bedroom where we'd see it every morning and night. Your husband had good taste, Francesca said warmly. Tell me, Claire, this finder's fee they discuss, it is substantial? Yes, they're saying 10 to 15% of the value. I have told them 20%, she said firmly. You saved our painting. You suffered for it. 20% is proper. 20% of $50 million was $10 million. $10 million. I couldn't breathe. Francesca, that's too much. It is not enough, she interrupted. But it is what we can offer. The lawyers, they tell me there are rules. But Claire, between us, grandmother to grandmother, I tell you this. I would give you more if I could. You have given me back my father's memory. You have given me proof that Jeppy existed, that our family's story is real. How do you put a price on that? After the call ended, I sat in silence. That, Dr. Chen said softly, is what grace looks like. She was right. Francesca Moretti had every right to be angry that her family's painting had been stolen, sold, bought innocently, and was only now coming home. Instead, she'd shown me nothing but gratitude and kindness. It made what happened next even more painful. The lawsuit arrived by courier on a Tuesday morning. Patricia was suing for half the finder's fee, claiming community property rights through Richard's estate. The museum's lawyer, a sharp woman named Margaret Torres, read through it and snorted. This is garbage, completely baseless. The painting was a gift to you. It was in your sole possession for 27 years, and Oregon isn't even a community property state. Can she win? I asked. No, but she can drag this out and make it expensive. That's probably her strategy, make you settle just to make her go away. I thought about the daughter I'd raised, the little girl I'd rocked through nightmares and fever, the teenager I'd helped through heartbreak, the bride I'd stood beside proud and weeping. When had she become this person? Or had she always been this person, and I just refused to see it? The depositions were brutal. Patricia's lawyer was aggressive, trying to paint me as a conniving woman who'd manipulated Richard, who'd stolen from his estate, who was now trying to cheat his only daughter out of her inheritance. Mrs. Hutchinson, he said, his voice dripping with false concern, isn't it true that you convinced your husband to purchase this painting specifically because you knew its value? No, we bought it because we liked it. How convenient that you liked a $50 million Caravaggio. We didn't know what it was. My voice rose despite my attempts to stay calm. So you claim, but you kept it hidden away, didn't you? Never had it appraised, never told anyone about it. It hung on our bedroom wall for 23 years. Everyone who visited our house saw it. Margaret objected, and the questioning moved on, but the insinuation hung in the air, that somehow I'd known, that somehow I'd schemed. Patricia's deposition was worse. She sat across from me in her expensive suit, bought with money from the job she'd kept while I cleaned her house for free, and lied. My father always said that painting was for both of them, she testified. He told me it would be mine someday. Mother knew that. Lies. All lies. Your father never said that, I said quietly when they let me respond. You're confused, Mother. You're getting older. Your memory isn't what it was. There it was, her strategy. Paint me as mentally declining, unreliable, possibly senile. The legal battle dragged on for weeks. Every day brought new motions, new arguments, new attempts to delay or confuse. Patricia even tried to get the painting itself frozen, claiming it couldn't be returned to Italy until her suit was resolved. An Italian cultural minister called me personally to apologize. We are trying to expedite, he said. This painting, it belongs in Italy, but American law is complicated. I started having nightmares. In them, Patricia took everything, the painting, the money, even the memory of Richard. I'd wake up sweating, gasping, clutching the hotel pillows. Dr. Chen found me one morning after a particularly bad night. Claire, you look exhausted. She's not going to stop, I whispered. Even if she loses, she'll appeal. She'll drag this out forever. Then we make sure she loses badly, Dr. Chen said grimly. So badly she can't appeal. Margaret had a plan. Margaret's plan was brilliant and brutal. She'd been quietly investigating Patricia's finances. Look at this. She showed me spreadsheets and bank statements. 6 years ago, your daughter took out a home equity loan. Didn't tell Thomas. The bank statements go to a P.O. box he doesn't know about. What did she use the money for? Gambling, online poker, sports betting. She's lost nearly $200,000. My stomach dropped. Thomas doesn't know. Thomas doesn't know, but he's about to find out because we're going to use this. How? Her lawsuit claims she needs this money to save her family home from financial hardship, but she's the one who created the financial hardship. We're going to expose that in court on record. It felt like fighting dirty. But then I remembered sleeping in that alley, Patricia's cold eyes as she locked the door behind me, and her calling me confused and senile in her deposition. Do it, I said. The hearing was scheduled for early March. The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected from TV shows. Patricia sat at her table with her lawyer, not looking at me. Thomas was there too, looking confused about why he'd been subpoenaed. Margaret presented her evidence methodically. The estate sale receipt she'd tracked down from 1998, showing Richard had purchased the painting as one antique oil painting, $200, with my name on the bill of sale. Testimony from friends who'd visited our house and seen the painting on our bedroom wall. Even a photo from our anniversary party in 2003 that showed the painting clearly in the background. Then she brought out the financial records. Mrs. Carpenter, Margaret addressed Patricia formally, you claim you need this money due to financial hardship. Is that correct? Yes, Thomas's business has struggled, and we have the twins' college to think about. Let me stop you there. Margaret projected the bank statements on a screen. These show approximately $193,000 in gambling losses over 6 years. Is this your account number? Patricia's face went white. Thomas stood up. What? Patricia, what is she talking about? The judge ordered him to sit down. Patricia stammered, tried to explain, claimed the records were wrong, and then claimed it was an addiction. She was getting help. It wasn't relevant to the case. It's absolutely relevant, Margaret said calmly. You're claiming hardship to justify taking money from your mother, a woman you made homeless, when in fact you created your own hardship through gambling. Gambling your husband knew nothing about, using money borrowed against a home he thinks is secure. Thomas left the courtroom. I saw his face as he passed. Shock, betrayal, rage. Patricia called after him, but he kept walking. The judge took 20 minutes to deliberate. When she returned, her expression was ice. I'm dismissing this case with prejudice, she said. Mrs. Carpenter, your claim is baseless and appears to be motivated by greed rather than any legitimate legal right. Mrs. Hutchinson has sole ownership of the painting in question and sole right to any compensation from its recovery. Furthermore, I'm ordering you to pay Mrs. Hutchinson's legal fees. This court is adjourned. Oh, Patricia's lawyer tried to say something, but the judge was already leaving. It was over. The authentication process finalized in April. The painting was confirmed as an original Caravaggio from around 1595, one of only about 60 known works by the master still in existence. Its value was assessed at $54 million. Francesca Moretti kept her word. The finder's fee was set at 20%, $10.8 million. The ceremony when they returned the painting to Italy was beautiful. I stood beside Francesca in a museum in Milan, both of us crying as they unveiled it in its new home. The Italian press was there, American press too. They kept calling me a hero. I wasn't a hero. I was just a woman who loved a painting without knowing what it was worth. The money came through in May. After taxes and legal fees, I had just over $7 million, more money than I'd ever imagined having. I bought a small house in Portland, 2 bedrooms, a garden, a studio where I could paint, something I'd always wanted to try. I set up a foundation to help displaced older women, partnering with local shelters to provide not just beds, but pathways to permanent housing. Patricia tried to contact me 3 times. The first time I answered, "Mother, please. Thomas left me. He took the twins. I'm losing the house. I need help." You threw me out with garbage bags, Patricia. You slept in a warm bed while I froze in an alley. You called me senile and confused in court. You've made your choices. I'm your daughter, and I was your mother. That didn't seem to matter to you. I hung up. I didn't answer the other 2 calls. Some people might think that makes me cruel, but I've learned something these past months. You can't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm, especially when they're the one who lit the match. Walter, the shop owner, became a friend. He visits every Wednesday for coffee, and we talk about art and second chances. Dr. Chen and I have dinner monthly. Lorenzo sends postcards from Italy. Last week, I visited the women's shelter where I'd been turned away that first awful night. They have room for me now, they said. I laughed and explained that I didn't need shelter anymore. Instead, I wrote them a check to expand their facility. The director cried, "Do you know how many women we can help with this?" I knew exactly. That's why I gave it. I'm 56 years old. I've been betrayed by my daughter, widowed by fate, and saved by a painting I never knew was precious. I've slept in alleys and in museum suites. I've sold a masterpiece for $5 and earned millions for returning it home. If there's a lesson in all this, it's simple. Sometimes the things we treasure for the wrong reasons turn out to have value we never imagined. And sometimes the people we think we know turn out to be strangers. But there are also Walters, Dr. Chens, and Francescas in this world. People who show kindness to strangers, who see worth in others even when they can't see it themselves. Those are the people worth treasuring. I'm Claire Hutchinson, and that's my story. Please subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video, with love and respect.